Imagine a world where your job as a writer could one day be done by a computer, not just helping, but writing entire scripts. Now, that future isn't just science fiction anymore. It was a central battleground in the recent Hollywood writers' strikes. Hi, I'm Zachary Sandman, and today I'm going to walk you through what happened in the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike, why writers felt compelled to walk out, and how artificial intelligence played a starring role in the negotiations, and why their fight matters for creatives everywhere. Before I get into the nitty-gritty details, it's important to discuss why they striked in the first place. Now, the 2023 WGA, or Writers Guild of America strike, it was not the first time that writers have walked out, but it was historic. Over 11,000 writers participated nationwide, and one of the core grievances was money, or more precisely, how streaming changed how writers got paid. Residuals from streaming platforms had sharply eroded compared to the old days of syndication, and writers argued that even though streaming companies make huge profits, their compensation just hasn't kept up. Staffing in writers' rooms shrank, shorter mini rooms meant fewer writers per show, fewer opportunities, and less stable work all around. And on top of that, writers were concerned about being undervalued, working in a kind of gig economy even though they contributed to so many major productions. These are already big reasons to strike, but what really ignited the fire was a newer threat: generative AI. AI wasn't just a side concern, it became central. There was a fear of replacement. Writers feared that studios would use AI to generate first drafts, and then hire humans only to tweak or punch up those scripts, and that would fundamentally devalue the craft. Now, credit and computation was another huge issue with that, because if AI writes and rewrites materials, how do you credit that? Now, the WGA insisted that AI-generated content not be treated as source material, meaning you couldn't take an AI story and assign a human to adapt it for less pay. But it didn't solve the problem. Training AI became another huge issue. One of the biggest demands was that writers' material was to not be used to train the AI. If studios can feed existing scripts into AI models, those models could generate new content derived from writers' own work without compensation. Now, this strike also secured a right to opt out. Basically, writers could opt out to not use AI, and under the agreement, no company could ever force a writer to use AI tools. As Adam Conover, a WGA negotiator, put it, they could have ChatGPT write this awesome script, and then ask a human to punch it up, but not pay them as the writer. And you can see how this would be a huge issue. These companies are literally trying to use AI to replace the writer's work as a way of maneuvering around to not pay these writers what they deserve. And as bad as that is, that's not even the only concern. Writers also raise concerns about diversity. Chatbot-style training data tends to replicate existing bias, which could ultimately erase cultural nuance. So how did it end? All right. After 148 days on strike, the WGA reached a tentative agreement, and they scored some major wins, especially around AI. Here are some of the key protections. AI cannot write or rewrite literary material. This means simple prompts or entire scripts generated by AI are either off limits or heavily restricted. AI-generated stuff doesn't count as source material, so it can't be used to undermine writers' credits or pay. No mandatory AI usage. Writers can use AI only if they choose to, and only if the company agrees. This is huge. It means that companies cannot force writers to use AI, and it makes it much harder for studios to replace their workers or otherwise undercompensate them for their work. Transparency. If a studio provides AI-generated content to a writer, it has to be labeled as such. However, and this is a little complicated, studios were still allowed to train AI on existing materials according to some interpretations. So, while they didn't ban AI entirely, they built strong guardrails, and they set a precedent. For the first time, a major creative union got binding protections against unchecked AI use. But this isn't just a big win for screenwriters. It's a bellwether for how labor might contend with AI across creative professionals. This is a big deal beyond just Hollywood. It's a labor victory. Writers asserted that human authorship matters. It's a regulatory precedent. By locking in terms around credit, compensation, and training, the WGA forced studios to treat AI as a tool and not as a replacement to people. And creatively, it affirmed writers' agency. They can choose to use AI, but only under fair conditions, rather than being pressured into being AI assistants. And for the tech world, it raises a larger question. How do you design generative AI that respects creative labor? Studies suggest that many professional writers do want to collaborate with AI, but only on their own terms. So there you have it. The 2023 writer's strike was about more than pay. It was about the soul of storytelling and the battle over who owns it in an age of smart machines. As AI continues to evolve, the WGA's fight sets a powerful example. Writers didn't reject technology outright, but they insisted that the human voice remain at the center. Thank you for watching. And if you're a writer or someone interested in tech ethics, keep the conversation going. Support creators' rights. And if you're in a different creative field, say journalism or publishing, watch this space. These negotiations could inspire similar contracts or protections, not just for writers in Hollywood, but for all creatives all across the nation, all across the world.